Well, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show this Sunday. It is not at all times we address issues that are not happening currently. But this Sunday, we are compelled to go back to a statement credited to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party some 2 weeks back, to the effect that if he became the president, he would privatize an NPC. He would sell off the refineries. Added to this is a reckless conversation on pricing of petroleum products in the country. So much noise, harsh noise. If you go to Maiduguri today, as we speak, you may buy a liter of petrol between 400 and 500 naira per liter. If you go to Owerri in Imo State this afternoon, you can't buy it for anything less than 300 to 250 naira per liter. Yet the noise is about whether it should be sold for 179 naira per liter or not. But the experience is that nowhere in Nigeria is petrol hardly sold for 179 naira per liter. The promise by Atiku Abubakar to sell off the refineries, privatize NNPC, allow the private sector to drive our oil industry, does it make sense? Economic sense, political sense, experience sense? We do not know. This afternoon, I have a guest. He is Sergius Ogun, PDP member of National House of Representatives, representing Esan Northeast and Esan Southeast Federal Constituency of Edo State. Honorable, and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Are you worried that our conversation today about price of products in Nigeria is so harsh, so inflammatory, so combative, and people seem to be protesting loudly?
Yeah, I'm very concerned. I just came back from the constituency where I bought petrol for 300 naira per liter in my constituency of Esan Northeast, Esan Southeast. And even before I go into the constituency, I was already called to say it's going for between 450 and 500. So I was able to get into a filling station to buy. That was comforting for me, because if you are buying from black market, you don't know what you are buying. And if I have to fuel 2-3 cars for that, imagine the average Nigerian. I don't like using the word ordinary Nigerian. What they are going through to convey things to the market or to bring things from the farm to the market. So people are worried, and people are uncertain of the future. So if I want to go into your introduction, I think I'm 100% support of what the presidential candidate of the PDP is saying. But what I don't know is, has he modulated the statement he made before in 2018-19 when he contested that he will sell NNPC? I'm more inclined to that. Yeah, but the challenge will be, what are we going to do with the money? If you sell NNPC today, the entire assets, granted that you still have the companies operating will still have to pay royalties of what's on the ground. But if you sell today, for example, and you get $1 trillion, that would do a whole lot for our country. Also knowing that oil is going to be a wasted asset in a very short time. But what are you going to do with the money, knowing the profligacy of the past? Is it going to be blown by one administration, and then we woke up a poor nation, unable to account for the money? So ordinarily, like I said, I would have respected that more, because the NNPC Limited, or NNPC as it stands, I don't know if it's fully represented the interest of Nigerians. So should I be talking about a windfall today, or a windfall? Because when people talk about the inflation and high cost of things, they point us to the US, they point to the UK, the Western world. But what they are not adding is the welfare in those states. There are people that still get check in the mail till today in the UK that do not have jobs. The young people in Nigeria that are not employed don't enjoy that. So we should be comparing ourselves with all economies like the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Iran, even Iraq, and the rest of them. They are smiling to the bank.
Can we interrogate that article's promise a little deeper?
Yes. I think that's what we need today. Because now we have NNPC Limited. That is a limited liability. So it should be run properly. It's no longer a corporation of government. So ordinarily, if we allow the private hands to run it, the decisions will now be strictly commercial. If we do that, we will save ourselves from the mistakes of the past. Because if I have a stake in NNPC, my thinking is not how to employ my brother or how to take a product to a certain place to benefit certain people. Because it's strictly commercial. So that's why I agree 100% with him. But when you talk about privatizing NNPC, Nigerians don't see, most Nigerians, their minds go to the ones that didn't work. NEPA. But what about the telecommunication? That one worked. I can give you an example of even Eco Hotel. Then I think it's even Ikoyi Hotel also. I think it's now Southern Sun. There are so many that worked well and they provide the service. It's not so much money, it's not the money you make from it. It's the future. It's like saying, give out an asset. Give it out, don't make any money from it. But the tax, if you're able to get that asset to work and properly managed, the tax they will pay to the country, you make a lot of money from it. The service it will provide, the people you employ. So most times people are looking at, you are selling an asset for this amount of money, is actually worth this amount of money. But you can sell an asset for so much and that will be the end. So that's what I'm saying. If you give it out, just give it out, don't make a dime on it. Maybe the word is concession. But let's say we are not in concession. You say, okay, take is a dash. Manage it well. Those things that you benefit, the tax it will pay going forward because it's not properly managed. The number of people that were employed that will also pay tax and the service that will be rendered to the public. If it's a hotel, I need a hall, it's properly managed. Rather than moving events to South Africa or neighboring countries, the events will hold here. People will supply drinks, supply food. That will be ushers and all that. All that brings money into the economy. So that's why I agree 100% with the presidential candidate of PDP. If we need to know the blueprint, he wants to apply for the privatization. Selling the refineries, they did. Himself and his principal, Obasanjo, they sold the refineries to Dangote and his friends.
That went reversed.
Yes. If it was not reversed by Yaradua, Dangote and Co. would have been running the refineries smoothly. Look at what happened, that when that failed, he now started building his own, that's almost ready. So you imagine if that sale had gone through and they're managing it well. Now, basically what is happening, all the monies we are making, they're supposed to be windfall from crude oil. We are using to import petroleum products. That's why we have scarcity of dollars in the country. That's why we are not able to pay the airlines or meet our obligations to our foreign partners. So we would have been refining here, creating jobs, and then be selling our crude oil.
Now, can we look at the politics of the promise by Atiku Abubakar? Yes. The president, through the Petroleum Industry Act, has created the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. And the president says to us, we are all shareholders. Atiku Abubakar says he will privatize it. Can Atiku Abubakar, as a president, privatize NNPC effectively without a word, a voice, and input from the state governments? Can it work? Because NNPC is not just a company, it is a political company.
Yes, he can with input from the state governors. Like the PI, the governors they made input in a way, but I don't know how much of that went through. Like I can tell you for free, the way it's constituted now, the board, now the ownership, we have 200 billion shares, then head for all of us by Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated and Ministry of Finance. The governors, I think, wanted to be on the board and all that, but I don't think they succeeded. So I know they're not happy the way it's constituted right now. So if the president, if you have a president article and says, I want to privatize it, I'm sure the governors will be happy. It depends on the terms. That's why we're talking about his blueprint. It depends on the terms. But I still think part of the plans going forward is to privatize NNPC Limited. Because in the course of the PIB that now became PIA, we had mentioned, look at Saudi Aramco. They sold only, is it 5% shares? And look at, they became the biggest company in the world as at that time. You know, and if you remember, the then Minister of State Petroleum, Ibe Kachuku, had said in 2017 that they were going to go public. Then he started having problems after making that statement. You know, so it's been in the works. So I strongly believe the governors will support it if he's able to sell it to them. And I think that's going to be the future, really, because the biggest problem NNPC has is the government. Now you say it's NNPC Limited. Can you tell me that the group CEO can make decisions without recourse to the Asorok Villa? And unfortunately now, the president is the Minister of Petroleum. Because if it's truly limited, if it's a limited liability company, you don't have to be running to the president to make decisions. You make decisions in the best interest of the company. But that's not the case today. So I agree 100% with the presidential candidate of PDP, privatize NNPC, the government should
sell off the refineries?
They were sold. It should be sold like yesterday. Yeah, because what we are pumping in now, because somebody asked the present Minister of State for Petroleum, that why spend billions of dollars to rehabilitate or refurbish them? And you said we might sell in the future. They say, why don't you sell now? He claimed that, well, the state they are in, nobody's willing to buy. So why pumping billions that can actually build brand new ones? And then maybe you want to sell. Because he has said that, well, let's fix it first and then we might want to sell. Who will buy? You know? Yeah, but I think it's also better at times to save. In business, you might be saving some money and making losses in the future. Lose money now and make profit in the future. What I'm trying to say is we have sunk billions now. Maybe if you sell it, that's the example I gave before. If you sell them today to those that can manage them properly, you might lose that money with which you have refurbished them, but in the long run they will produce, which will be in the general interest of everybody. It will mean that we don't have to be importing, taking out dollars to bring in refined products. Because in doing that, we are shipping jobs outside the country. So you have the refineries working here, employ Nigerians, and because if for nothing, there's insurance on those vessels that are bringing in the petroleum products. And then the freight. And those vessels are not owned by Nigerians. That's a whole lot of money going outside the country. So if he sells, and I think even the refurbishment is like 2-3 years away from being ready. So he'll probably be doing it will be second year in office before the refineries will be ready. But even at that, if he says, I think it will be in the best interest of the country. I support that.
Let me take you to an area that could be of consequence in this entire privatization sell-off conversation. Today, products are subsidized in Nigeria. Just for those of us who may not understand clearly the story of subsidy, it means when we buy petroleum products or refine and move the product from the depot to the consumption point, the government pays the difference, that is the cost of that transportation, such that the product sells at the same price in Sokoto as it sells in Sagwama, Bayelsa State. The government absorbs that cost. Some people have said that is Nigeria's biggest endless hole. That's creating billionaires and the people are seeing nothing. if Atiku Abubakar is able to become president and privatizes, what will happen to that policy of equalization and therefore subsidy?
Yeah, you have just said two things in one, which is basically the government today, the federal government is subsidizing the importation of petroleum products. Okay, what they have today is direct sales, direct purchase, DSDP.
Yes.
So they take crude oil
From us, Nigeria.
yes, from the federation, and then it's trade by barter.
You give it to Mr. X
yes,
in the UK, Singapore, wherever.
They have companies that will take them out. They call it, they say, value for value. For this quantity of crude oil that we have given to you, bring the value in a refined product. That value we have not been able to define. So you bring them in. So the differential, they will pay. The federal government will pay.
I want my viewer to understand what you mean by differential.
Okay, they see there are differences.
That is when they give me the oil to
The crude oil
to
yes.
refine.
Yes.
And I'm bringing back the refined product.
Yes.
There are certain costs.
Yes, that's incurred.
Higher than what I gave you, which I have to pay them.
Well, the easiest way to explain this will be the landing costs.
Good.
So the petroleum, per liter, the last time we checked, is landing at about 320 or so per liter. And that cannot be transferred to Nigerians. So,
then that's politics and not economics.
Exactly. So the government pays for the difference. That's one leg of the subsidy. Or that's the subsidy. Then the second leg is the equalization. So now, if I bring him, that's why it has to go private. If I have a license, the government says, okay, let's liberalize this sector. We are deregulating. Anybody that can bring in petroleum products that meets our requirements, that's what the regulatory body should do, the authority, the midstream and downstream regulatory authority. Their own is to regulate. It's okay, this is the PMS, the petroleum we need in this country. It must meet this basic standard. So if you can bring this in, bring them in. They are usually inspection companies that inspect out there before they enter the country. They also have others that inspect here. Nigerians don't have to pay. The government does not have to pay. So and these are international companies. You will not want to lower your standard just because of one country. They are all over the world. So their standard they must adhere to. So if that is in place and you bring in a product that meets the standard, you bring in through Calabar port or the port in Cocoa or Cocoa in Delta State, and it lands at 150 naira per liter. From when it's discharged to the tank farms, which means tank farms are owned by private individuals. So which means tank farm owners can begin to sell at maybe 180 or even 160, thereabout. So the max people in that vicinity in the state should get should be 200. So, but if you're going to transport it from Cocoa or from Calabar or from Onne or from Lagos.
From the tank farm.
Yes, from tank farm in any of these coastal cities to Meduguri, for example.
To Bauchi.
Or to Bauchi.
Mina, to Abuja.
Yeah.
To Lokoja.
So it becomes a business consideration. It might land in any of these cities up north for about 250. So that's what the government is bridging now. That's what they are paying because of the equalization. It should be the same all over the country. But why some of us fought that, if I want to buy a cow today in my constituency, in Uromi, in Edo Central, I will be spending about, depends on the size, between 500 and 600 to 750,000 naira to buy one cow. It's end of year, I'm going to be doing that right now. But if I'm buying the same cow in Adamawa, I will not be spending even half of that. It will be far less. So that's why we are saying
that's economics.
Economics. So if we apply that, there might be creative way of doing this. So products coming from Chad or from Niger into one of those areas might not be as expensive. So that's why if we...
So some people can decide to import from there.
Exactly. That's why we are saying, look, let's try, if we take this further, we will come back to what some of us believe in. We should have true federalism in this country, or devolution of power, so that states can be creative. They begin to think of imaginative ways of doing things. We have some of the frontier feeds now, We have oil in Gombe, in Bauchi, in Borno or so. If those ones can drill and build refineries, it's just in your backyard, Or the states can even invest in Chad or in Cameroon or in Niger, the states. And you have a refinery that you can pipe straight into your country. Sorry, not your state. Across from Niger into your state. But till we begin to do those things, if we don't do those things and we keep waiting for the almighty federal government, we're not going to move. We'll just keep crawling. So the way to go is commercialization. Yeah, the poor man we claim we are protecting.
How are good?
We are trampling on. Yeah, because in all this we are seeing, how have we protected the so-called poor people? We have not.
Yeah, but Honorable, the Niger Labour Congress as a union has consistently argued against liberalization of the oil sector because it says it's the engine that drives the national economy. And if it's allowed to be driven by market forces, the very people they represent, the worker, will be at the short end of the stick. And he says, look, we must do everything to keep this equalization so that the ordinary person, the worker, can have at least something to go home with. If not, transportation and feeding will take all the money from him. He cannot even train his kids. Does this argument not a little bit water down Atiku Abubakar's move? Doesn't it make it a little inconsiderate?
Yeah, but I just think the NLC, most times, are playing to the gallery. But I heard that they had softened that position and had even agreed for the president to go ahead and deregulate the downstream sector. But that a certain senator went to the president, after everybody agreed, governors, everybody agreed, went to the president and said, if you do that, Nigeria will be on fire. Don't do it. And the president listened to him. I heard this from NNPC direct, or we heard it from this NNPC directly during an investigation. But they refused to name the name. But your guess is as good as mine. For that senator to be that powerful to talk to the president, you should know who the senator is. So it's no longer an issue of NLC. I think they have realized what is on ground and the facts, maybe based on advice from economists and all that. And they have said, go ahead.
Allow me delve into the politics of oil in Nigeria, if you don't mind. NNPC, we are not discussing it in terms of buying and selling. NNPC is also a political institution for controlling, for managing the political dimension of Nigeria's oil industry. And I'm going to be a little bit direct. Who owns oil blocks in Nigeria? It's part of Nigeria's petroleum sector politics. And that ownership also determines from whom the crude is being gotten. And therefore, who stands to profit or not profit, who stands to lose political control or not political control when that sector is privatized. Can Atiku Abubakar stand the push that may even come to a shove if he plays this privatization card that could hurt certain political interests?
Well, in 2019, I heard him say, I am going to sell NNPC. Even if they want to kill me, let them kill me. I was blown away by that. So he is one of, if for some of us, he is one of them. So to come out and speak like that, he knows what he's against. He chaired the privatization under the Obasanjo, so he knows how to go about this, and he would have seen the merit of doing that. Yes, I'm sure he's ready to take on them head on, I mean, he's been there. He was there for 8 years as the vice president of this country.
So he knows.
He knows the benefits of doing this.
He could also know the players.
Yeah, he knows the players, and he knows what he's going to be against. I'm sure that's why he used the word that if they are going to kill him, he's ready to do it. So, granted that if he goes ahead to do that, but again, I don't think it's so much of whether whoever comes now will do it. Because, like I said, the former Minister of State Petroleum, Ibe Kachoko, has said, we're going to do this. And now, it didn't happen. During the PIB, when it was under consideration, the PI was under consideration, some of us raised this question. And then the current group CEO said, maybe not now, maybe some few years down the road, let's just have a company that's limited, let's have a limited liability company that's going to be properly managed, and then a couple of years down the road, we'll look into that. And I still believe that's the case. So whoever comes now will do it, because that's the only way to make NNPC
profitable. Or should do it.
I don't think they have a choice. I don't think they have a choice. Because you cannot, NNPC has toxic assets that is not being passed over to NNPC Limited. And that is the burden that we all have to bear as a nation. So we cannot continue on that trajectory if you want to make NNPC Limited profitable. So that's why I believe that whoever comes on board now, some of them might not have the courage to say it as they are campaigning. You know, I applaud His Excellency Atiku Abubakar for saying that openly. I think others don't really have any choice. It's something they would do. Maybe they just don't have the courage to say that today. But it's inevitable. It's something that must be done. Nobody can run away from it.
Well, my colleague is telling me you just have a few minutes. Let me just ask a last question. The candidates, the oil sector as a major issue in the 2023 political campaigns. A number of the states, all the states today, go cap in hand at the end of each month to get checks. A privatized oil sector, will it not end that?
It might
or
not.
Is it just that now a better managed company is bringing the checks to the federal government still?
Exactly. Because he's supposed to be profitable and he's managing the federation assets.
Because let me tell you why I'm asking this question. If the man goes ahead to privatize, the states may have stakes in those companies. And therefore it is their company. And they'll be interested in how that money is sent to the federal government. Will it not begin another round of harsh debate?
Yeah, it might. There's no way to not. Yeah, because even if certain part of this country wants it to happen, there are other parts that will not want it to happen because of the benefits that accrue to them today, from contracts to employment and all. So there's no way we are going to agree at the same time. But we have to stop seeing NNPC as our common patrimony. That must stop. It should be a business venture that should be properly managed for the benefit of the whole country. So that is why ordinarily I will support the outright sale. Because there are so many other places where we can make money as a nation. And this idea of coming cap in hand to beg for money from the federal should stop. That's why some of us are strongly in support of true federalism or devolution of power. There's no part of this country that is not blessed, you know, but it's just proper management. So for once, the governors need to sit on their butt in their states and manage their states well.
What should the National Assembly be doing for a president who is willing to privatize?
Cooperate to the president 100%. Cooperate, irrespective of the sentiments in your constituency. Cooperate 100%.
Okay, cooperate 100% with any president who in 2023 will be willing to privatize, to allow the private sector to run Nigeria's oil industry. This conversation has been going on for a long time. I hope one day we'll actualize it. In the past 30 minutes, I've been conversing with Honorable Sergius Ogun, who is PDP member of House of Representatives, representing Esan Northeast and Esan Southeast, Federal Constituency of Edo State. By the way, I didn't tell you, he's a member of the House Committee on Petroleum Upstream, Petroleum Downstream, the Nigeria content, local content, and host community. I think he's very qualified to advise us this afternoon and to hold this conversation with us. Let me, on your behalf, thank him for coming to the conversation. Honorable, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me.
My name remains more boys and joke, a little bit of cough in this, Hamatan is here, isn't it? But the conversation never ends. Let's meet same time on Sunday. Good afternoon.